Welcome everybody, it's Diana with a message from God, and I want to speak today about creating the skills and faculty to engage with angels, and not only, but with the spiritual realm. But in order to achieve this, you need to use your spiritual faculties. You need to be spiritual, right? So let me read to you from Acts chapter 10 verse 10, because I want to show you that you can train your spiritual eyes to see. You need to see with the spiritual eyes. You need to hear with the spiritual ears. That's very important. But if you do not train your eyes to see, you will not be able to see. Let me read from Acts chapter 10 verses 9 to 10. So, it's about Peter's vision. And it says, "The next day at about 6th hour, as the men were approaching the city on their journey, Peter went up on the roof to pray." So what was he doing? Praying, right? He became hungry and wanted something to eat. And while the meal was being prepared, he fell into a trance. You are praying, and while you are praying, you are falling into a trance? Explain. What kind of prayer is this? Is this a prayer using words? Because how am I falling into a trance using words? It makes no sense. So let's define the word trance. It means a displacement of the mind, bewilderment, ecstasy, a distraction or disturbance of mind caused by shock, amazement. It's using a word that means completely remove, properly take out of a regular position, standing. Do you remember where Paul says that he was like seeing heaven, but he cannot remember, or he does not know if it was in the body or out of the body? It's because he experienced the same thing. He fell into a trance, but he does not know, did the Lord take me, like did he take my body out of the body or in the body? So let me read to you. It means take out of a regular position and bring into a state of ecstasy, rapture. Rapture. So when we speak about the rapture, this is how the Lord is rapturing you to heaven. He's taking you because he's changing something within you, and you suddenly appear with him. He's not taking this body with him. You will have a new body because you will be like Jesus. When we will see him, we do not know how we will be, but we know that we will be like him because we will see him face to face. This is what the Bible says. So it says that he was brought into a state of ecstasy. He was raptured, like a person carried out in trance-like amazement. This state of mind, meaning the state of ecstasy, being raptured, this state of mind reaches far beyond the powers of ordinary perception. It's not ordinary. So while he was praying, he fell into a trance, into ecstasy. So what does trance mean? It means that you are bewildered, you are in amazement. That's why you need to think about God and be in awe. That's a key word, be in awe. Let me define to you trance from another perspective. A trance is an altered state of consciousness characterized by a heightened focus, deep relaxation, and reduced awareness of the external environment. Why? Because you are focusing on the spiritual world. You are not aware of what is around you, but rather you are aware of the spirit realm. In a trance state, individuals may experience a narrowing of attention to a specific object, idea, or internal experience, often to the exclusion of surrounding stimuli. So again, what are you experiencing? A narrowing of attention to a specific object, idea. Does this remind you of something? Because I'm about to read it to you. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But I like the King James translation because it's more accurate. So it says, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. So how can you see in the spirit? You need to focus on something to the exclusion of all. If therefore thine eye be single, if your eye is single, it means that you are focusing just on one thing. That's why the Bible says that a double-minded man cannot receive anything from God, not because God does not want you to receive that thing, but you are not able to receive it. It's about receiving. It's not about God giving, it's about you receiving. Whenever you focus on something, you marry that thing, so to say. You unite with that thing. You become one with that thing. It means that you start to embody that very thing. So that's why you can receive it, because you will produce within yourself the space to create it. So you are creating it within you. Do you remember what I said in my previous video and how I talked about creating and making a thing? These are two different things, meaning that if you want to experience the invisible realm, you need to narrow down your attention on only one thing, meaning on God, or meaning on the angels, depending on what you want to see. Whatever you want to receive from God, you need to fuse with that idea, with that promise, to the exclusion of everything else. Meaning that you need to see only what God shows you. You basically reject everything else. The moment you accepted anything else, it's the moment it took the space of God's promise within your heart. Then you are a double-minded person, because that very thing that you accepted that was not of God is taking space. It's taking your energy. So how do you know if you accepted anything else other than what God gave you? You are feeling it. It takes energy from you. It deprives you from your energy. Let me read James chapter 1 verses 5 to 7 to you. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. It will be given to you. So the Lord is giving that thing that you are asking, but can you receive it? Let's read verse 6. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. So this means that you need to have only one vision, only one idea. Because if you hold multiple ideas in your heart, you cannot manifest only that idea or the promise that you have from God. Verse 7. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. It's not saying the person should not expect that God gives them anything, that the Lord gives. The Lord gave. We read it in verse 6, or rather in verse 5. So the Lord gave. The Lord released. Here, it's speaking about receiving. The receiving part is on your side. It's not on God's side. The giving is on God's side. The receiving is on your side. So you cannot receive anything from the Lord. You cannot receive because there is no space within you to carry the promise, to carry the answer. There is no space. You do not have the capacity to receive the word, to receive the promise. There is no space within you. So let me explain to you this word receive. The word receive means to lay hold of, to lay hold by aggressively or actively accepting what is available or offered. This is so important to understand because it's not about God not giving, it's about you not receiving because you don't have the capacity. So now I'm speaking about creating the skills and the faculty to engage with the angelic realm or to receive from the Lord. So we need to tap into that realm by receiving because the Lord already gave, but we need to accept it. Accept with initiative. That's what it's saying. Accept with initiative emphasizes the volition, assertiveness of the receiver. So you need to be assertive. When this word is being used, you can see it in other Bible verses translated as married, gripped, occupy, receives, taking, took. So you marry, you become one with what you asked. We find this word in Matthew chapter 8, verse 17. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. He took up our infirmities. Took up. That's the word to lay hold of. So Jesus came and took your infirmity and diseases aggressively. So the Lord laid hold of your diseases and infirmities by being aggressive, taking it. That's how you need to receive the promise of God. You need to marry that promise. You need to marry what you have asked of the Lord. Meaning, your eye needs to be single. So here, your ability to receive is answered or is shown in your ability to narrow your attention to a specific object or idea, to a specific thing that you asked of the Lord. It means that you are creating it in your mind. So then it can be made. It can manifest. If you do not know what I'm talking about, go back and watch my previous video about creating and making. So you focus on only one thing to the exclusion of everything else. The moment you fuse with what you asked God for example, wisdom, something is being triggered. What is being triggered? So the moment your belief matches with any state, meaning you think about something, I want to be wise. You fuse with it. And this union results in the activation and projection of its plots, plans, conditions, and circumstances. This means that when you fuse with what you asked God for, it will manifest. You will see it take shape. You will see it in the physical realm. But your ability to focus is required. You need to narrow down your attention. You need to be able to sit down and imagine and think about God's works, about what God promised you. You need to create it in your body. meaning that as soon as you will create it, you will start feeling it. You will start seeing it within you. And as soon as this happens, you will see it take place in the physical realm. So when you do these things and basically you phase out, you start to focus on something so much that you phase out. You're not there anymore. You are not aware of your physical surrounding, but you are aware so much on what is in the spiritual realm. You are being pulled into the spiritual realm. So then, because you are there in the spiritual realm, you can use your eyes to see what's around you. You can see the spirit realm. So how can you exercise? You need to take the time and do it all over again and again and again, until you really have the ability and the skill to focus on what the Lord showed to you. What is it that you want to have? What is it that you want to see? You need to think about it over and over and over again until you are being pulled into the place that you are thinking about. You are being raptured. You need to pull the vision into the now. When you pull the vision into the now, you start seeing it around you. So whenever you think about God's promises, you do not think that it's going to happen sometime in the future, but you need to start seeing it all around you. You need to become the promise. And when you become the promise, you will see it. You will receive it. You will have the ability to receive it. A lot of people in the Bible that were having visions or that were connecting to the spirit realm, they were meditating. They were meditating. And it's not even really about sitting and not doing anything. It's not emptying yourself, as you usually hear about meditation. It's about getting full of the Spirit, full of the promises of God. It's about creating. So when I sit down, when I take the time to think about God, about His promises, I am imagining and creating in my mind, or I'm giving His promises space within me so that they can come into this physical realm. So it's the same with having angelic encounters. You can train yourself to see with your spiritual eye, the eye of your vision, the eye of your vision. When your eye is single, you are full of light. And when you are in the light, you will see. There is more to it, but if you start with this, then you are on the right track. If you want to give to God, the link is in the description box below. Share this with a lot of people. Let me know what resonated with you the most. What is it that you learned from this video? That's it. Many blessings. Love you guys and talk to you soon.